From time to time in Saints history, there have been unfortunate occasions where the team's schedule has been curtailed due to tropical weather. On October 16, 1969, the team was flying back from a preseason game at Denver as Hurricane Camille was scheduled to make landfall near Waveland, Mississippi. Coach Tom Thiers told his players and coaches to go and take care of their property and stay put while those who didn't own a home stayed at the team's North Shore preseason facility at St. Paul's High School. The club's September 7, 1974 preseason game in Houston was originally scheduled for the next day, but was moved with anticipation that Hurricane Carmen would strike Louisiana after moving north from the Bay of Campeche. The storm missed New Orleans as it turned northwestward towards New Iberia. After the Saints played the Giants in the Superdome October 27, 1985, the club virtually was not able to practice outdoors for the next 5 days because of the meandering of Hurricane Juan, an unusual late October storm causing steady rainfall and coastal flooding that affected some players' and coaches' residences. Ironically, on August 27, 1992, the Saints played a preseason game against the Miami Dolphins in Baltimore, but both teams were directly affected by Hurricane Andrew on the 24th and 26th, respectively. All proceeds from the game went to the American Red Cross. As the Saints played at Indianapolis on September 27, 1998, many residents were concerned about the path of Hurricane George, which luckily went east of the New Orleans area, though it did force the Saints to stay in Indianapolis one extra day. The week leading into the September 19, 2004 contest versus San Francisco, the Saints packed their equipment for a few days due to the possible threat of Hurricane Ivan and went to San Antonio before returning the Friday before the game as Ivan hit the Florida Panhandle. And finally, but sadly, there was the entire Katrina situation stemming from the storm's 2005 landfall in southeast Louisiana and South Mississippi. A terrible season on many fronts. But as the city of New Orleans would start the rebuilding process, the Saints would come out of that season and make 2006 the inspiration for us all. A new attitude and first ever conference championship appearance. Overcoming adversity is a part of everyday life. Let's hope that the positives stemming from it far outweigh the negatives. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to 1998 when a Louisiana-based team won a national professional football championship. Oh, you don't remember? Well, in November 1997, the Professional Indoor Football League was created with 8 teams, and Baton Rouge had the Bayou Beast, which was coached by McNeese State and former Saints running back Buford Jordan. Players on the Bayou Beast included one-time LSU and Southern quarterback Melvin Hill and White Castle, Louisiana product Doug Coleman. Also on the roster were Franklin Thomas, Jack Phillips Jr., Joe Valencia, and future NFL star Michael Lewis. The Bayou Beast went 13-1, and in the semifinal playoff game, they defeated the only team to beat them in regular season play, Colorado. The championship game was at the Maravich Assembly Center in Baton Rouge on August 15, 1998, against the Madison Mad Dogs. Here's Coach Buford Jordan's comments leading into the contest.
Whoever missed this game tonight is going to be missing a game because, hey, everybody, you can just feel it, and it's not nervousness or butterflies. The thing is, it's just ready to play ball.
The game ending was out of a storybook. 3 touchdowns were scored by both teams in the last minute. Madison took the lead 41-35 with under 30 seconds to go. The Beast would get a short return on the ensuing kickoff from Michael Lewis. After a quick pass to get past the midfield stripe, the Beast would only have one play. Here's reporter Victor Howell with how the game ended.
The Bayou Beast celebrated their one-point victory in the inaugural PIFL championship. Madison Mad Dog officials called it a home field victory and the Beast cheaters. Their emphasis, the final play of the game, where a face masking call on the Dogs gave the Beast one last chance for the win. Was there a face mask? Then Mad Dog officials should only be mad at their own players. Check out what happened. You remember, last play of the game, Doug Coleman back in shotgun throws incomplete pass, and it looked like Madison would win it, right? It may not be drastic, but that's a face mask nonetheless. They make the call, so with no time on the clock, we're going to have one more play. And as you remember, Coleman fumbled the snap, but this untimed play would give him time to find Derek Fobb in the end zone, and that would set off the celebration as the Bayou Beast won the inaugural PIFL championship.
Here's receiver Derek Fobb on his key touchdown catch.
I went into my route. They covered the route, so I took another route, and it was open. And Coleman saw me in the end zone.
And Buford Jordan describes the moment as well.
This is what we said all year long, Steve. When y'all covered us and did it, hey, we knew it was going to wind up like this. Hey, I haven't seen a game like this in the NFL yet in a Super Bowl. We just told the guys we can still do it, and we did it.
One important note, Derek Fobb's catch actually tied the game at 41. Before kicker Eric Howardkamp could score the winning extra point, the Beasts were penalized 9 yards for excessive celebration after the touchdown. But Howardkamp made the kick with no problem, and a championship was brought to Louisiana football fans. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. December 14th, 1980 was a true benchmark in Saints history as the Saints won their only game, 21-20 over the Jets at Shea Stadium. Here's some pregame commentary from Kurt Gowdy and ex-Saints head coach Hank Stram.
And we talked about Manning. Bill Walsh paid him quite a tribute last week, the 49er coach. He said to him, Manning is the best quarterback in the National Football League.
I think he's one of the great quarterbacks in the National Football League. I think he'll earn the right to be one of the very greatest who ever played the game.
Saints running back Jack Holmes would score the first touchdown of the game on a 14-yard juggling pass reception. The Jets would reply shortly after with a 1-yard touchdown run and 2 field goals by Pat Leahy. Tony Galbraith would later score on a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 14-13. Jets quarterback Richard Todd would respond with 9:39 left in the game.
He gets away. He got the 20, the 15, the 10. He scores. Richard Todd scores on a 32-yard run.
You know, I didn't know he could run that well, very frankly.
The Saints would make the most of the next possession with a 10-play, 73-yard drive, resulting in another Tony Galbraith 1-yard touchdown run.
The third and a yard to go for a Saint touchdown. They're behind by 6. And the score. Tony Galbraith scores. Galbraith goes over. Very important point by Ricardo. The kick is up, and the kick is good, and the Saints take the lead 21-20.
The Saints would get the ball one more time, and punter Russell Erksleben nailed a 57-yard punt into a 30-mile-an-hour wind to keep the Jets out of scoring range and help seal a Saints victory. Tommy Myers and James Marshall each had interceptions, and Archie Manning was 20 of 30 in passing for 198 yards. Shortly afterwards, Gowdy and Stram would comment on the Saints fans who made the trip to the game.
Well, the Saints have loyal fans, even though they've never had a winning season. They're all looking on at Charlie Saints Bar on Apple Street, Paracel's Bar on the Irish Channel. How about Joe Jamili, a friend of yours, Hank, president of Touchdown? He's having a big party. They're watching the game.
Oh, yeah, and also Jimmy Moran, who has such a great place, the Riverside. A lot of very loyal groups in New Orleans, as you mentioned, Kurt, one of which is Charlie Saints Marching Club, President Joe Gonzalez, and his wife Alice, and she was just named the Queen of the Hooky Looky neighborhood just recently.
Give me that again. Queen of what?
The Hooky Looky.
Okay.
At game's conclusion, Archie Manning spoke with his ex-coach on that long-awaited victory.
Archie, this got to mean an awful lot to all of you. It was a great effort. Nice going.
Well, thank you, Coach. It means an awful lot. We hadn't talked about it much, but you know what's been in the back of everybody's minds as the season grew on, that we were going to go through this thing without winning a football game.
I thought you did a great job of changing the pace and calling plays this afternoon, Archie. The draws, the passes, the runs. I thought you did a splendid job.
Well, thank you. I like to mix it up like that.
The club finished the season 1-15 and would not have their first winning season until 1987. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to 1970 when a young man from Drew, Mississippi was a candidate for the Heisman Trophy. His name, Elisha Archibald Manning III. The following you're about to hear are a couple of clips from a song written about him at that time called The Ballad of Archie Who. In between the two clips, you'll hear an interview he did with former CBS reporter Haywood Hale Broun about his life in Mississippi and why is he called Archie instead of by his first name, Elisha. Let's listen.
I didn't like it. I was afraid of the way the other teammates would accept it, what they would think about it. But they kind of took it on as a joke, and maybe a joke with me and playing around with me. I didn't mind it too much. I try not just to pay too much attention to it. I can't say that I dislike the national pressure and so forth. I mean, when you want to be a college athlete, you want to do the best possible, and you want to be in the national spotlight.
What do you think would have happened if you'd still been called Elisha?
I don't think they'd probably wouldn't have put that on the button.
When did you stop being called Elisha?
Well, I don't ever remember being called Elisha.
Well, it's in the college catalog as your name. Is it really?
Yes, sir. That's my first name.
But nobody's ever called you that?
No, sir.
Make a tackle. They wonder where
In Archie's commentary, he made reference to a button. Thousands of red and blue buttons were made that either said Archie for Heisman or Archie who, in the pursuit of Archie trying to get that coveted Heisman trophy, which wound up going to Jim Plunkett for the 1970 season. This is William Taylor, and this has been another edition of the Closet Sports Soundbite. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to 1988 and one of the most exciting games in the history of Tiger Stadium, Auburn at LSU. Let's go to the action as Mike Patrick and Kevin Kiley call the game.
That misery index could be wiped out totally in one play.
That's a very good point, Mike. And a wasted timeouts, that's our perception. We feel that those 2 timeouts they took, the one.
4th down, 10 yards to go, 1:47 to go in the game. LSU wins or loses on this play, it would appear. Dropped the touchdown pass, been out of bounds on another one, and caught this. The extra point from Broun to take the lead, and it's good.
They never covered this guy the entire 4th quarter, and he finally caught it. This says a lot for the LSU team, says a lot for Tommy Hodson, pulling the trigger to this guy so many times. Standing in there, the pressure finally got to him, and Eddie's only 5'7". He was going to get up for this, but this says a lot for Mike Archer, leaving that kid in the game.
Yes, it does.
And going back to him and going back to him. You got to give this man credit. You got to give this team credit. I'll tell you, they were down offensively the entire game.
And you know what Fuller's saying? Please let me catch this ball. And Tommy Hodson, he's been flat on his face most of the game, and he has just hung in there.
Another great moment in the history of LSU Tiger football. This is William Taylor for the Closet Sports Soundbite. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to February of 2001 when wrestling promoter Vince McMahon decided to start his own pro football league called the XFL, which stood for Extreme Football League, and was carried by NBC, UPN, and TNN. Here are Vince McMahon's first comments from that very first broadcast in February 2001.
Welcome to the XFL. On behalf of the players and coaches in the XFL, we welcome you to our brand of football. We welcome you to our game. We invite you to enjoy the all-access pass that gives you freedom to go places that other leagues have determined to be off limits. So to our worldwide television audience, to fans all over North America, to fans here in Las Vegas, on behalf of the players, we simply say thank you. Thank you for the privilege of competing before you here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the XFL.
It was a league that featured some interesting rule changes, including no fair catches, a punt was live after 25 yards past the line of scrimmage, as well as no kicked extra points. The league would only survive for one season, with the Los Angeles Extreme winning the championship over the San Francisco Demons, whose head coach was former New Orleans Saints running backs coach Jim Skipper. The quarterback for the LA Extreme was Tommy Maddox, and as a result of his team winning the championship, it extended his NFL career, which he had retired from a few years earlier, to have modest success with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2002, and then later be the backup for Ben Roethlisberger. This was also a league that allowed players to put any sort of nickname on their jersey nameplate. The most famous player to come out of this rule was a running back with Las Vegas, whose real name was Rod Smart, but everybody knew as He Hate Me. Once the XFL folded, Rod Smart would go on to have a career as both a running back and special teams player with the Carolina Panthers. The league may have only lasted 1 year, but in a sense it was fun while it lasted. This is William Taylor for the Closet Sports Soundbite. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to September 1, 1991. The Saints would open the regular season in the Superdome against the Seattle Seahawks. It also marked the return of quarterback Bobby Hebert to the lineup after sitting out the entire 1990 season over a contract dispute. What you're about to hear is the Saints tying touchdown with just under 2 minutes to go in the contest. Right after the touchdown, you will hear what should have been the tying field goal attempt by John Casey. But instead of trying to field goal from 23 yards, he had to try it out from 38 because quarterback Dave Craig was called for an unsportsmanlike penalty after a third down play. Talk about a way to lose a football game. Well, let's go to the action right now.
Hilliard is back with Hebert. 4th and goal. Over the middle.
If there is any doubt about the calm, collected operator in Bobby Hebert, watch this throw. He just fires it right. Just an excellent throw. Roy Turner makes a great catch. Walsh is happy. Jim Moore is happy. The offensive coordinator has gone berserk.
Roy Turner. And the ball had to weave around James Jefferson, a 68-yard drive, 13 plays. It took just over 6 minutes. Seattle will have one more opportunity. They trail by 3. And this is the tie instead of an overtime. It is no good. And it's official. Craig brought him back from the brink. And it is unsportsmanlike, possibly cost him an opportunity to go into overtime and win.
Calling that game for NBC was Charlie Jones and Ahmad Rashad. The Saints would go on to win their first division title in 1991 with a record of 11-5 before losing in the first round of the playoffs to the Atlanta Falcons. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, this is William Taylor. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go down memory lane. According to WDSU television promos, W.Mack was advertised as being the first reporter to be on hand for the first ever Saints training camp, which started on July 1, 1967 at Cal Western University near San Diego. One of the first interviews Wayne did was with the legendary Jimmy Taylor, who the Saints made a trade with to get from the Green Bay Packers. Let's listen to that interview he did about the young people the Saints had brought in.
Jim, do you feel that coming to the Saints, and as you mentioned, these younger boys, gives you a chance to be even more of a leader than you have in the past?
Yes, it does, because you have had the experience and been with some good, fine ball players, and you know you're really knowledgeable about the game, and you can help a lot of these young players and work with them, and they're all young and hard-working kids, and they want to learn and want to be good football players, and it does give you an opportunity to bring out some of the leadership qualities in you.
Yes, indeed, another trip down Saints memory lane. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to Halloween night 1959 with one of the greatest punt returns in collegiate football history. LSU was hosting Ole Miss. The score was 3-0 to the University of Mississippi when Jake Gibbs came in to punt. Well, what happened next would be absolutely memorable. Let's go back to the call with J.C. Politz.
It's actually about third down about 19 yards ago. Going back in the punt formation is Jake Gibbs of Ole Miss. He stands on his own 28. He gets a pass from center. He boots it and gets another nice kick away going way downfield. Billy Cannon watches it bounce. He takes it on his own 11. He comes back upfield to the 15. Stumbles momentarily. He's at the 20. Running hard at the 25. Gets away from one man to 30. Still runs to 25. At the 35 to 25. He's down to 50. He's in the 50. 45 to 20. He scores! Billy Cannon raced some 89 yards for a touchdown. Listen to the cheer for Billy Cannon as he comes off the field. Great All-American.
Many younger LSU fans may not realize that that was not actually the deciding play of the game. Near game's end, Ole Miss would drive down the field, and we'd get near the LSU goal line when LSU would make an outstanding defensive stand. Once again, J.C. Politz.
You should be able to tell by the cheer from the crowd if they score or not. The ball is on the 2-yard line. Left halfback Tankard. Elmore is the quarterback. He takes, he fakes, he's running hard. He's hit right on about the goal line. He does not score. He does not score. Then LeBlanc hit him on about the 1-yard line with the aid of Billy Cannon, and LSU takes over with 29 seconds remaining in this ball game. LSU will try to hang on to the ball. Johnny Robinson out on the flank of the right. Rab takes it, knifes his way right up the middle of the line. He might have picked up 1 yard on the play. 12 seconds. LSU leading 7-3. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's the game.
It will forever be a game cemented in Tiger fans' minds forever. We close out our segment with an interesting novelty song. It pays tribute to a squad on the LSU team known simply as the Chinese Bandits. This is William Taylor for the Closet Sports Soundbite.
Chinese bandits, they cannot
Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to a magical moment in Saints history, October the 13th, 2002, as the Saints would play at the Washington Redskins. Club history would be made as kick returner / punt returner Michael Lewis would run back both a kickoff and a punt for a touchdown in the same game. Let's go back and hear some of those magic memories.
Tuttle kicking off. Coming up short for Michael Lewis at the 10. Lewis takes it outside. Good speed. Lewis may go. And there he goes. Michael Lewis takes it to the house. Touchdown Saint. His first career kickoff return for a touchdown, 90 yards. And the Saints answer right back. Ryan Barker's first punt of the game. Michael Lewis lets it bounce. And he plays it on the roll. Tries to get outside. Picks up a couple of blocks. Watch out. Here goes Lewis. He may go again. Michael Lewis, touchdown! His second of the game. His second return, his first ever punt return for a touchdown. 83 yards, and Steve Spurrier can't believe it. What a game Michael Lewis has had.
Watch who springs the block for number 84. It was 51, Brian Cox, the old veteran. Suited up this week for the first time this season.
Thanks to Michael Lewis bringing in those two touchdowns, the Saints would win the contest 43-27 and would finish the year 9-7, just missing a playoff berth. Michael Lewis's career with the Saints would continue through 2006 before being released and eventually signing with the San Francisco 49ers. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we look back at the life and career of Dick Nolan. He was born in 1932 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and attended White Plains High School before becoming a standout player at Maryland University. He was the New York Giants' fourth-round draft choice in 1954, and his signing bonus was an outstanding $1,000. He played for the Giants from 1954 to 57, was traded to the Chicago Cardinals in 1958, then back to the Giants from 1959 to 61. He earned 23 interceptions in his career. When he went to Dallas in 1962 to initially work as an assistant coach under Tom Landry, he was asked with only 3 days' notice before opening day if he could play defensive back, and out of loyalty to Coach Landry, he did. In 1964, Nolan developed the flex defense, and here's his explanation on how it works.
It was originally installed in 1964 in Dallas as a change-up defense, and then in 1966 became the primary defense used throughout the year. That was the first year of 2 years that the Dallas Cowboys met the Green Bay Packers in the championship. Basically, the flex defense is nothing more than a gap defense, and it allows your middle linebacker to have a great deal of freedom to get to that ball. In order to play the flex, you have to have two very strong, quick, big tackles.
Nolan became San Francisco head coach in 1968 and led them to 3 division titles, getting to within 1 game of the Super Bowl on 2 occasions. He was let go after the 1975 season. Then he became an assistant coach under Hank Stram in New Orleans in 1977 before being elevated to head coach in 1978, where he became the first Saints head coach to bring the club to a non-losing record of 8-8 in 1979. He was let go 12 games into the 1980 season when turmoil within many levels of the Saints organization created a 1-15 season. But he quickly rebounded, and the next year he went back to work for Tom Landry in Dallas as an assistant coach. He later worked as a scout for 2 years under Jimmy Johnson, then was involved with Arena Football as an assistant under Drew Pearson with the Dallas Texans of '91, and was head coach of the San Antonio Force in 1992. He slowly worked his way into retirement afterwards, and his son Mike would become head coach of San Francisco in 2005. Dick Nolan was one of the more likable people in NFL history, and probably one of the most honest as well. Here's a sample of his honesty from the 1978 New Orleans Touchdown Club Welcome Home Luncheon.
This is the time when 28 coaches are promising their fans the world. Championships don't just happen, they're built. I'm not going to promise anyone where we will end up in the win-loss column. That is often such an empty promise. I just want to leave it at this. When we walk off the field from our last game in the 1978 season, I honestly believe you will be proud of this Saints team here today.
Dick Nolan passed away on November 11, 2007 at the age of 75 from long-term illness. His presence as a coach and human being will always be remembered fondly. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to July 1, 1967, at San Diego, California, for the first ever Saints training camp at Cal Western University. You are about to hear W.Mack as he interviews longtime Saints owner John Mecom as he introduces the first Saints general manager, Bert Rose. Mr. Rose was a longtime friend of Commissioner Pete Rozelle and had worked in several NFL front offices, along with working directly under Mr. Rozelle at the NFL headquarters in New York. Let's take a listen.
Well, John, you look like you're a happy man right now. Quite happy. We've waited for this moment now for about 7 months, and it's taken a while to make the decision, but we know that now, by far, the best decision we could have ever made on it. With the new general managership, one person in control and authority, and we're down the road now and quickly down the road to success. Bert, how do you feel today?
Well, very kind of John to say that, and I'm sure he knows how delighted I am to be part of the Saints organization, and I just can't wait to get started.
Mr. Rose would stay with the Saints for 1 year before moving on in 1968 and would eventually become the general manager of Texas Stadium when it was completed in 1971. Next, you will hear Dave Whitsell, an original Saints defensive back, talking to Steve Stonebreaker, an original linebacker. Both gentlemen resided in the New Orleans area for many years after their retirement and as a result became fan favorites. Let's take a listen to their conversation.
What do you think about all the rookies?
Well, I'll be very honest. My opinion, rookies is worth nothing because I don't even know who's a rookie out here. I've only been here, a day and a half, Dave, and I haven't had time to pick out the vets, let alone the rookies.
I'm real impressed with this kid, Wes Kelly from Alabama. Boy, he's a hard-nosed kid. He'll hit you.
He's the back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've caught his act.
225 or
yeah, I
something.
caught his act my first day here, and he looks like he's going to help us.
They threw you right in the fray there, didn't you? That scrimmage right off the bat.
It's the first time in 6 years I've been in a live scrimmage on opening day of camp. That's the first time I
funny. He said, "Hey, Stonebreaker," and you went, "Who, me?"
Yeah. Well,
hard to believe it's been 40 years since that interview was done. Along the way, the New Orleans Saints didn't have a lot of wins, but one thing's for sure, there was always some great, interesting moments to talk about. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. Today on the Closet Sports Soundbite, we go back to December 28, 1958, at Yankee Stadium, where the Baltimore Colts would visit the New York Giants for the NFL Championship. Some people would call it later the greatest game ever played because it was the first overtime game in NFL history. Some 64,000 fans at Yankee Stadium would witness this great moment, not to mention millions that would watch it over NBC. The contest was back and forth. The Giants would score first with a 36-yard field goal by Pat Summerall. Later, Alan Amici would score a 2-yard touchdown run for Baltimore, and Raymond Berry would catch a 15-yard pass from Johnny Unitas. Triplett would score on a 1-yard run for the New York Giants, and Frank Gifford a 15-yard pass from Charlie Connolly. With under 10 seconds to go in regulation, Baltimore's Steve Myra would kick the game-tying 20-yard field goal to bring it to an unprecedented situation of overtime, tied at 17.
The ball now is on the New York Giants 44-yard line. First and 10 to go for the Colts. Unitas this time gives to Amici, finds a big hole in the center. Amici rams his way forward, deep into payoff territory. Brought down by Patton on a quick opening play, a fake to Dupre. Down the middle run by Alan Amici. And they're now within a hailing distance of a field goal. The ball's from the 20-yard line of the New York Giants. Unitas throws to Berry, who makes a diving catch of the ball at the 5 and is pinned there. The official says it's first and goal to go. The official says that as he went down to his knees, they took the ball at the 7-yard line, and the 8-yard line make it. So it's first and goal to go at the 8-yard line, and a diving catch by Ray Berry. Unitas calling the signals there. Johnny looks over the defense. Hands up to Amici. Amici rams his way off the right side. Baltimore Colts back in the huddle. 2nd and 6 to go for the championship for the Baltimore Colts. Out of the huddle they come. Up over the ball come the Baltimore Colts. Unitas calling out the signals. He passes. Cut. Let's see if Mutchler got that ball and went out of bounds. It's 3rd and 1 yard to go for the championship. 3rd and 1 to go for the championship. A pass to Mutchler put the ball on the 1-yard line. Barking out the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores. That's the end of the game. The final score. Baltimore 23, the New York Giants 17. We'll be back in a moment with the final wrap-up of today's game.
As of 2007, 12 players and 3 coaches from that contest would be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So even in today's era of Super Bowl fever, it's hard to forget that greatest game ever played. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. Though sometimes you wouldn't know it from listening to various outlets, believe it or not, the NFL did have final championship games before the Super Bowl's creation in the 1966 regular season. It began in 1920 when the American Pro Football Association, called the NFL in 1922, was formed. From 1920 to 23, the champion was decided by a vote of the league owners following said seasons. The first NFL championship went to the Akron, Ohio Pros, led by L.G. Tobin and the league's first African-American coach, Fritz Pollard, who also played for the team. That was followed in 1921 by the Chicago Staleys, later called the Bears, under head coach and league founder George Halas. Then in 1922 and 23, the Canton, Ohio Bulldogs won the title under head coach Guy Chamberlain. In 1924, the NFL decided the championship would automatically go to the team with the best winning percentage with a minimum number of sanctioned games played. The 24th champ was the Cleveland Bulldogs, which basically was composed of former Canton franchise members. The 1925 title had controversy where the Pottsville Maroons finished the season with the best winning percentage, but were disqualified because they played an exhibition game at the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets home stadium without Frankfurt's permission. A protest was filed by one-time members of the Maroons 3 different times over the next 4 decades to no avail. The second-place Chicago Cardinals were given the title. The next 3 championships went to the Yellow Jackets, New York Giants, and Providence Steamroller. The Green Bay Packers won 3 straight titles from 1929 to 31 under coach Curly Lambeau and star end Don Hudson. But 1932 was the benchmark championship as the Chicago Bears and Portsmouth, Ohio Spartans finished the season with the same winning percentage. The league decided to have a tiebreaker game to determine the champion. The game, scheduled for Chicago's Wrigley Field, couldn't be played there because of a huge snowstorm. It was moved to the indoor Chicago Stadium and played on a dirt surface. The field was slightly smaller, and a special rule was adopted where if the ball carrier was tackled within so many feet of the sideline and barrier wall, the ball would be moved to the center of the field for the next play. The next year, this resulted in the league adopting hash marks. No goalposts were used in the game either. The Bears won the game thanks to a touchdown pass from Bronco Nagurski to Red Grange. Later in the game, the Bears would also score a safety. However, Spartans player Glenn Presnell felt the Bears didn't earn the touchdown fair and square. Let's listen to his comments.
He wasn't anywhere near 5 yards back of the line of scrimmage, which was a rule in those days. You had to be back 5 yards. They won the game 9-0. It was an interesting game.
And here is a perspective from the other side from Bears star Red Grange.
Bronk threw the touchdown pass to me. I was laying on my back in the end zone, and Bronk threw me an end-over-end pass. That was his best pass.
This game resulted in the league adopting a championship game every year afterwards. We'll have more on that in our next report. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. 1933 marked the beginning of the NFL's more organized format with 2 one-team division conferences. This also marked the start of the annual championship game where each conference champion would rotate hosting duties. The Bears beat the Giants 23-21 before 26,000 fans at Wrigley Field in that first title game. Some say it was the most exciting championship game for the lead changed hands 6 times. Coach Steve Owen and his Giants won the 34th title over the Bears 30-13 at the Polo Grounds in what some called the sneakers game. Here's Wellington Mara, son of then Giants owner Tim Mara, on their secret weapon.
The field would obviously be frozen. And Ray Flowery, who had played at Gonzaga University in Spokane, one time when he was in college, they had won a game on a frozen field by wearing basketball shoes. The problem was that it was a Sunday. There was no way of getting anyone to open the stores. Abe Cohen was a tailor. And Abe used to come to our games and help out in the dressing room. And he volunteered that he would get a taxi cab, go up to Manhattan College and break into the lockers in the locker room to get the basketball shoes of the basketball team. In the first half, the Bears had pretty much the upper hand over us. And at halftime, they led 13-3. Players came back into the dressing room at halftime, and Abe had just arrived with the basketball shoes. Ed Danowski did not put any on immediately. He was our quarterback, and he went out for the second half in the cleats. About the end of the third period, Danowski became convinced that he should change to the basketball shoes, and I remember that one of the Bears came out of the game and reported to Coach Halas that they were wearing basketball shoes, and Halas' reply was, "Step on their toes."
In 1935, the title game was between Detroit and the Giants. Detroit won the contest 26-7. In 36, Green Bay defeated the Boston Redskins 21-6, where Redskins owner George Preston Marshall decided to play the game at New York's Polo Grounds instead of Fenway Park since he had already announced he was moving the team to Washington. In 1937, the now Washington Redskins beat the Bears 28-21. The 1938 title went to New York, 23-17 over Green Bay. In 1939, the Packers got the title back from the Giants 27-0, in what was the first NFL title game to be shown on TV, in this case only to residents in the Milwaukee area. The 1940 title game was likely the most lopsided as the Bears ran over the Redskins at Griffith Stadium 73-0. Thanks to a strong defense and the revolutionary T formation for offense that was created by Coach Clark Shaughnessy. Here's quarterback Sid Luckman on the contest.
I'll never forget, the game started. George Maccabee opened up the game with a 10-yard gain. Osmanski then went around the end, 68 yards to be exact. From that moment on, it was just a sheer marvel at the way our team played and the way they acted.
Next time, we'll look in the championships deeper into the 1940s. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. In 1941, the NFL had to utilize its then tiebreaker system to determine a conference champion when the Bears and Packers finished tied atop the Western Conference at season's end. A tiebreaker game was played a week later with the Bears on top, 33-14. The Bears would win the title the following week, 37-9 over the Giants. In 1942, Redskins head coach Ray Flaherty and quarterback Sammy Baugh led the charge in a 14-6 win over the Bears. Another tiebreaker game was played in 1943, where the Redskins beat the Giants for the Eastern Conference title 28-0. However, the Redskins couldn't stop the Bears for the championship as the Monsters of the Midway won 41-21. 1944 saw the Packers defeating the Giants 14-7 at the Polo Grounds. Head coach Adam Walsh would lead the Cleveland Rams to the 1945 NFL title over the Redskins 15-14 at Municipal Stadium in what some called the hay game, where in a failed attempt to keep the wet field warm the night before using bales of hay, the bottom of the bales stuck to the ground while being removed the morning of the game, creating a yellow look to the field. This was also recognized for years as the coldest championship game ever played, with a kickoff temperature of 5 above. What many recognize as the deciding play of the game occurred in the first quarter, when Redskins quarterback Sammy Baugh threw a forward pass from his own end zone, and the ball hit the back of the goalpost and landed in the end zone, which at the time was a safety. The following season, the rule was changed to make it an incomplete pass. In 1946, the Bears beat New York for the title 24-14. In the 1947 Eastern Conference playoff, Eagles over the Steelers 21-0. The next week, the Chicago Cardinals beat the Eagles 28-21 for the 47 title. The 48 championship featured the Cardinals at the Eagles in what was then a record snowstorm for Philadelphia. Here's Eagles running back Bosh Pritchard on the whereabouts of his teammate Steve Van Buren before the game.
The funny story is that Van Buren almost missed it. Steve woke up and there was this blizzard, and he didn't think the game was going to be played, so he was at home. They finally called Steve and say, "Where?" He says, "You mean we're going to play?"
And here's Van Buren on the same issue.
I caught the trolley. I had to catch 3 trolleys and walk about 6 blocks to the stadium.
Van Buren would score the only points for a 7-0 win. The Eagles and head coach Earl Greasy Neal would repeat as champions in 1949 on a sloppy LA Coliseum field over the Rams 14-0. From 1946 to 49, the NFL would have competition with the All-American Football Conference. The Cleveland Browns, who would join the NFL in 1950 along with the 49ers and Colts, won the All-American title 4 years in a row. In 46, they beat the New York Yanks 14-9. They beat the Yanks again in 1947, 14-3, and in that season, the Browns would go undefeated. In 1948, they defeated a club called the Buffalo Bills 49-7, and finally in 1949, they beat the 49ers 21-7. Next time, we'll look at championship games, starting with 1950. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. The 1950 NFL Championship featured the former Cleveland-based team, the Rams, who defeated the Bears 24-14 in the Western Conference tiebreaker game against the Browns, who beat the Giants 8-3 in the Eastern Conference tiebreaker. Here's how the Rams' first offensive play sounded with announcer Bob Kelly.
Corner field, fades back the pass. Fades way back to his 8, looks once, throws long. Davis is out in front, catches on the 50. I believe he's going to score a touchdown. The 35 to 30, the 25 to 20, the 15 to 10 to 5, and he's over, and the Rams are up in front 6-0.
Here's the ending with announcer Bob Neal.
Here's the pass from center. James putting it down. Throws it, boots it. It's up in the air. It's heading towards the goalpost, and it is good. And the Browns lead now 30-28. with 20 seconds left. Time remaining 7 seconds. There's Van Brocklin back to pass. Looking for Glenn Davis down along the sideline. Davis back there, but Warren Lahr intercepts. And Davis and Lahr go into the end zone. The clock runs out. The game is over.
In 1951, the Rams and head coach Joe Stidehar got their revenge over the Browns at LA Coliseum, 24-17. Here's the winning touchdown pass, as called by Harry Wismer.
Norman Van Brocklin goes back. Tom Sears makes a great catch on the dead run and goes all the way to score for Los Angeles. A 72-yard touchdown play.
This was the first NFL championship on national TV, as the Dumont Network paid $2,000 to do so. In 1952, Detroit beat L.A. in the Western Conference playoff 31-21 before beating Cleveland the next week 17-7, giving head coach Buddy Parker the title. The Lions would repeat in 1953, beating Cleveland 17-16 at Briggs Stadium. In 1954, Browns head coach Paul Broun and quarterback Otto Graham got revenge on the Lions in a 56-10 victory. And in Graham's last NFL game, the Browns won the 55 championship 38-14 over the Rams. The New York Giants then stepped up to the plate in 1956 and beat the Bears 47-7 at Yankee Stadium. In 1957, the most interesting tiebreaker game in league history was played, as Detroit went to San Francisco for the Western title. The 49ers led 24-7 at halftime, primarily thanks to the Lions not having Bobby Lane at quarterback and going with Tobin Rote. Here's Detroit's Jack Christensen on the first half.
They was so confident that they were going to win the ball game that I think that they brought champagne to the locker room. We heard a little bit of the celebration.
The 49ers' first drive of the second half featured a Hugh McElhenney 65-yard run, which led to a field goal, 27-7 49ers. Detroit came back to score 24 unanswered points and win 31-27. The Lions went on to beat Cleveland the next week 59-14 for the 57 championship. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. In 1958, the Giants beat Cleveland 10-0 in the Eastern Conference tiebreaker game to set up a benchmark championship, as Weeb Eubanks Colts beat Jim Lee Howell's Giants 23-17 at Yankee Stadium in the league's first overtime game, in addition to being a catalyst for sports coverage on TV. Here's that famous winning touchdown carried by Alan Amici.
Barking out the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores!
The Colts would win the title again in 1959 in Baltimore over the Giants 31-16. 1960 brought the title back to Philadelphia, as quarterback Norm Van Brocklin led the charge with future Hall of Famers Tommy McDonald and Chuck Bederick, playing in his last game as both an offensive and defensive starter in a 17-13 win over Green Bay. Here's Eagle announcer Bill Campbell on what would be the last play of the game.
8 seconds to go. Just one play to go. 3rd and 2 from the 22. Star to Taylor. He could go. He's at the 10-yard line. Stopped by Bednarik on the 8, who sits on him and waits for the seconds to tick off. There it is. The Eagles run it. Chuck Bednarik, number 60, who played both ways today.
Vince Lombardi's Packers would reign victorious in 1961, defeating the Giants 37-0, where he previously served as an assistant coach. Star Packers running back Paul Hornung had to get a weekend pass from his military base in order to play, and this was dubbed the NFL's first $1 million game, as some $400,000 was generated from ticket sales and another $615,000 from NBC's TV rights. The Packers won again in 1962 over New York, 16-7, in what was the first championship film by Blair Motion Pictures, which became NFL Films. The Chicago Bears reigned supreme in 1963 over the Giants, 14-10, and what many remembered as the last hurrah for New York quarterback Y.A. Tittle, who was very bloodied and threw 5 interceptions. Here's Giants defender Sam Huff on the game.
I went to Y.A. and I said, look, you got us 3 points. We're leading 10-7. That's all we need. The Bears can't beat us. Stay out. We'll win the championship for you. They taped him up, put him in the game, hurt. He turned the ball over again on screen passes, and we lost the game 14-10.
Y.A. Tittle also sounds off.
63 championship game, I think, was my biggest disappointment, because in my personal opinion, and I know that a lot of Chicago Bears may be listening to me say this, but I felt we had the best team that year.
Next time, we'll look at NFL championships starting in 64 and 65, and a look into the American Football League titles. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. In 1964, Blanton Collier's Browns beat Baltimore 27-0 for the title, thanks to Collier's option-blocking style of offense. The Browns' Bill Glass talks about the game.
Everybody was picking us to lose by 3 or 4 touchdowns, but we never felt that way. And Blanton Collier never allowed us to feel that way. And Paul Broun will probably go down as a greater coach in history than Blanton Collier. And yet, I think Paul Broun couldn't have taken that ball club, because allowed the players to think for themselves.
1965 featured a Western Conference tiebreaker game as Baltimore hosted Green Bay. The most interesting note about this tiebreaker game was that both Baltimore quarterbacks were injured, and running back Tom Matty had to go in to play quarterback with a special wristband attached that had most of the offensive game plan written for him. Late in the game, Packers' Don Chandler kicked what the officials ruled to be a good field goal, tying the game at 10. However, the Colts were upset because they swore to the officials that the ball didn't go through the uprights. Here's Colts player Jackie Burkett.
As a matter of fact, Don Chandler got the benefit of a bad call, and we got the brunt of it because Don Chandler turned around and kicked the ground after he hit the ball because he knew it missed it, and then they called it good.
Don Chandler would go on to kick a 25-yard field goal in overtime, 13-10. Mysteriously, the next season, the NFL ordered all teams to lengthen the uprights by an additional 10 feet. The next week, Cleveland played at Green Bay for the title. Here's Cleveland's Walter Flea Roberts on conditions leading into the game.
Yeah, see, we trained the time we got there in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is about 30 miles outside of Green Bay. And we gave ourselves about 2.5 hours to go 30 miles. The bus ran off the road twice off the road in the sleet and ice. They had to pull us back on the road. When we got there, we were a little pushed for time. It wasn't a good deal for us.
Cleveland rookie Jim Garcia also talks about those conditions at the game.
And they had a tremendous snowstorm, and the field was just in terrible shape. And typical Green Bay playoff situation.
Green Bay utilized their famous ground game and Packer sweep to win the last pure NFL championship 23-12. Not to be forgotten is the American Football League, which started in 1960 and would later merge with the NFL. Their first championship features Houston Oilers quarterback George Blanda and star running back B.Cannon defeating Sid Gilman's Los Angeles Chargers 24-16. In 1961, Houston won it all again, 10-3 over the relocated San Diego Chargers. Next time, we'll look at the rest of the pure AFL championships from 1962 to 65. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor. The 1962 AFL Championship would be the most exciting as it would go to double overtime, 20-17 with the Dallas Texans beating Houston. The start of overtime was a little questionable as Texans player Abner Haynes misunderstood head coach Hank Stram's instructions. We pick up the story on the field with announcer Jack Butt.
Dallas won because you have your choice, of course, receiving or kicking. We will kick to the clock. You're going to kick. Good. To the clock. Right.
Well, I tell you, over on that Dallas bench, they're going wild, Kurt. They don't know what's going on. Abner Haynes elected to kick off with a club, and I'm sure that's not the unanimous opinion of the bench over there. And whether or not it's going to pay off, we're going to have to wait and see. It's yours, Kurt.
Kicking against the wind.
Texans overcame that coin toss and would win on this field goal by Tommy Brooker.
Crossing the hole in the 24. And watch it. The big rush is on. The kick is up. The kick is good. Dallas is the champion. Dallas wins it on a 24-yard field goal by Tommy Brooker. They had to go into the second overtime period to win it.
We're here in the playing field, as you know, and here's Hank Stram, the coach of the now champion Dallas Texans. And Hank, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jack. It's a great thrill, and I just can't compliment this squad enough to see the way they came back and stayed in the ball game in the second half like they did, and finally came back and won it. It was a great tribute, I think, to our squad, and we're just as proud as can we that we can win the championship and bring it back to Dallas, Texas.
In 1963, the Boston Patriots defeated the Buffalo Bills 26-8 in the AFL Eastern Conference tiebreaker. However, the next week, the San Diego Chargers, led by running back Keith Lincoln, who rushed for over 200 yards in the title game, were too much to handle in a 51-10 thumping of the Patriots. The 1964 AFL title game had the Chargers traveling to Buffalo. The Chargers had an early lead until what many describe as the play of the game occurred. San Diego's Keith Lincoln was hit hard by Bills linebacker Mike Stratton, causing Lincoln to break some ribs and didn't return. Here's Keith Lincoln on that not-so-pleasant memory.
Pressure's getting on Tobin, and it's almost the way he threw it out of the pocket. It was almost like throwing a snowball down the chimney. It's something I don't like to talk about. I mean, it was a rather painful experience for me. Yeah, I still have number 56 embedded right here on my chest.
Mike Stratton also remembers that swing point in the game.
I was fortunate enough to get there about the same time that the ball got there, and Keith was not in the best position to receive me.
The final score, Buffalo 20, San Diego 7. And the final pure AFL championship was in 1965 as Buffalo beat San Diego again 23-0. It was a championship era of little hype, much substance, and to a large degree forgotten exploits due to a media over-focus on just Super Bowl titles and not the important titles that started it all. Here's to recognizing the champions of days gone by, and may they never be lost in the mist of time. For the Closet Sports Soundbite, I'm William Taylor.